Here, and today on deck, a very special episode. Got my good friend and great automotive operator, Mr. Tom Gilbert. Tom is the general manager of Lexus of Kendall. He is a extremely experienced automotive operator, a great guy, lots of wisdom, and just somebody you can talk to for hours and hours, and probably cut it short. We could have gone for a couple more hours, I'm sure. But without further ado, I really hope and think that you will enjoy this next episode with Tom Gilbert. Thanks, everybody. Hi, Tom.
Hi, how you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good. For those watching, we had a technical difficulty, so we were off to like this hysterical start, and then we had to stop, and now it's like.
That's how it is when you do things live.
That's right.
You never know what's going to happen.
That's right. Tom Gilbert, it is great to see you. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you for the invitation, Chris.
You're welcome, buddy. You are on deck.
Well, it's always nice to be on deck. That means you're in the game still.
Yes. I knew if there was anybody that would relate to that title, it might be you.
Well, you have to follow baseball to understand that a little bit. And as you and I like to talk baseball over the years, it's part of my life.
Yeah.
It'll always stay that way.
That's good. Well, we'll definitely get there. Tom, for those that don't know who you are, Tom Gilbert, you are the general manager of Lexus of Kendall, and you've been there for, I want to say, about 2 years now, correct?
Just shy of 2 years, yes.
Congratulations, man.
It's been a fun 2 years. It's been very nice.
I would imagine, because you're a Florida guy originally.
I am, yes.
And you've done the retail automotive general manager and platform director thing, which means you've had to move your family a number of times for different opportunities.
Yes, sir.
We first met about as far from here on the East Coast.
Just go to the Canadian border and stop.
Yeah, in beautiful Plattsburgh, New York.
Absolutely, and it was beautiful, no doubt about it. Up there in the Adirondack Mountains.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful time.
It's funny. I loved those visits, right? Because we would have meetings in Glens Falls, Queensbury,
yes.
right?
Queensbury, yeah. Headquarters.
And then we would also meet up in Plattsburgh. And for those that don't know, the drive from Queensbury to Plattsburgh, there's kind of like two ways you can go. You can go up the thruway, right?
Right, 87, yep.
Right, which incredibly beautiful highway drive, like up through the mountains, no cell phone reception at the time.
You don't want to break down.
Right? And so, or you could go kind of up along Lake George, right?
I never knew you did that drive.
Oh, Tom, I'm serious.
Okay.
It was one of the things that I looked most forward, aside from seeing you.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it was the highlight of your day having to fly to Plattsburgh, New York.
Well, I never flew to Plattsburgh, but I always flew to Albany and then would drive up and go from Queensbury up to Plattsburgh. And there was something about that drive for me that was just like, it was a 2 to 3 hour window where there was really no interruption, and all you saw was just beautiful scenery going by. It was really,
when you think about that was about almost 10 years ago.
Yes.
And at that time, what was so amazing is that you're starting out, you're relatively new.
Yes.
And the fact that you came to us is why you got the job. It wasn't a matter of ad agencies. There's plenty of them out there.
Right.
It was the fact that you were willing to get on a plane every month and come up. Your team, not just you. You bring George, bring Ron, bring Lori, everyone. They'd all come up and sit with us and find out what we needed for our business. And you took on all the hard challenges. You didn't just take on Honda or Toyota. It was, okay, what can we do with Mitsubishi, or what can we do with Suzuki at the time?
Yeah.
And you didn't want to just rest your laurels on the easy stuff. If I remember correctly, I won't say what you did because I don't want your people to do it to you now, but you put it out there on the line. And just before Suzuki went out, we were very profitable as a Suzuki dealer. Mm-hmm. And we were number 15 in the nation at the time in a town of 30,000 people. And it was because of the creativity that you all brought to us and took the challenge. And I want to thank you for that because it really made a difference for all of our employees up there. They embraced it. They liked it when you came to town because you made them feel important.
Ah.
And you never knew it. I wanted to share it with you. When Terry Mack or the managers would come, you were the only one that ever came in and talked to them. Or when Ed Savage, we'd do our commercials, you would talk to them. What do you need? What do we have to do? What can we work on? What's working? What's not working? And always made sure that they had your attention and you had their attention. And it was a great time. And that was why, as you saw, the parent company went a different direction. We never changed. We stayed with you.
Yeah, I remember.
And loyalty needs to be rewarded, and I appreciate it for our time together. It was an outstanding relationship.
Wow, thank you, man. That is really, really meaningful to hear, and I do thank you for sharing those words, because you don't, in our business, you don't always hear that, but it's interesting to me from my perspective that it's almost hard to wonder why somebody wouldn't do that. I mean, you guys were a big account for us, and it was just, that's what we do. It's like I always wanted to go there and be with you guys and just be able to communicate and talk, and I'm kind of at a loss for words right now that you shared that.
Well, I think it was a challenge.
Yeah.
You knew where I was coming from.
Yes.
You being a car guy, a lot of people probably don't know that. For the ones out there, starting out in Van Tile, I mean, we could talk finance, we could talk the talk, late night closes, and me coming from different markets, and I came into a very different market.
Yeah.
And we turned it upside down, but we turned it upside down the right way.
The right way. Yeah.
It was a very strong newspaper market, and we came in and said, hey, this doesn't work. We were spending $500,000 a month at the Press Republican. And next thing you know, we're digital.
Right.
50 cents on the dollar. What is a click through? No one knew.
I know, that's right, because it was all brand new at that time, and I remember when that was a big opportunity for us, because that happened. I met you guys and we presented to you guys, I want to say it was coming out of the crash. It was like 2008 going into 2009. I think we presented maybe in January or February.
Yep.
And in the room upstairs in the service department at the GMC store in Queensbury. Small little room, everybody was in there, and the classic type of like automotive advertising agency presentation, right? Like, ads, creative, media strategies and stuff, but like in a tight room with all the guys where you get drilled. And I remember, at that meeting, you pulled me aside and were like, hey, here's some things that you might want to consider or understand about
we had
the group.
To work together.
You were an advocate right away, and that really meant a lot to me.
Well, the company was it was different in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
First company I'd gone into that had really had a strong employee-centric focus. When you have a dealer that says, my goal is to never lose an employee. Okay.
Yeah.
We closed at 6:00 at night. Never heard of that. But we dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. When you dominate and you own the market, you can do those kinds of things. But they, to get to the other side, you had to do the finessing.
Yeah.
And you were very good at that. And that's that part, the personal part. You can't do that over the phone. You can't do it even on a webinar. That's when it's press and flesh still works.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we've always kept our relationship is for that. I've had some great advertising agencies. I think we had some very brutal conversations.
Sure.
Advertising agencies always want to take all the credit for everything. And all I just said is at the end of the month, if you did good, I'll keep you. If you didn't, I'll get rid of you. It's sort of simple.
Yeah.
If we work together. And there's some great advertising agencies. There's great car dealers. What separates the difference? It's the people.
It's the people. It's been, and that's one of the things that, what we're going through right now as an industry, particularly with COVID. And, we've sort of come out of COVID. And for those of us in, I would say, the service industry to the retail automotive business, I know us, we were like, okay, we're ready to charge again, starting back in March. And then you've got the inventory situation, which has, made things challenging for businesses such as us serving dealers because, I've said this publicly before, there's not as, a lot of dealers have pulled back. I think there's a time to start ramping up, and I do think that time is now. But nevertheless, there hasn't been, what the point that I'm trying to make is there haven't been and has not been as many of the go visit the dealership type of situations. And I miss that. Like I'm ready to go. I got a closet full of suits and jackets and pants, and it's all, I'm ready to go when the time needs to be, but that time is not right at this moment.
Well, I think that, you're falling into the same trap of why a dealer wouldn't advertise. It's not the moment. It's always the moment. The reality is when in that 2008, 2009, first thing everybody did was cut back on advertising. Everybody did. And I remember you and myself and Michael were having a conversation, and after the conversation, I was ready to do the whole typical cut. And I remember talking with Michael, and you had made a comment about just like your post the other day, talking about when is the time to go after market share. We knew we already owned 45% of all registrations in the market. Well, how can we get more? So we you called, I think, and found out. Lori called. Someone found out that everybody started cutting all their advertising.
Right.
And they all called out, and you all negotiated a deal, whether it was with Star 92 or whoever it was. We went in, got 50 cents on the dollar, pretty much on everything, and we increased our advertising. So we had more of a presence. You couldn't go anywhere without knowing we were in business. But what that set the tone for is that we were in business.
Right.
And everyone thought the sky was falling and the world was coming to an end, but not at Della. It wasn't going to happen. So you knew if you're going to go buy a car, you want to go buy a car with a place that was going to be in business. And we went after the service work, and we went after trying to how can we get Canadian customers to come in for service, and we started looking for all those other opportunities when we were out of cars because we were actually selling them. Cash for clunkers, we wiped us out. So we had to do sort of a lot of things we're doing now. So it's people are still searching out there online. People are still looking. You have an opportunity right now to increase that traffic for a lot less money right now. So why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
It doesn't really make much sense.
I'm really glad and thankful to hear you say that, because sometimes you need to hear your own thoughts served back to you in a different way, right? And that you just stimulated a couple of things for me that I quite frankly I had forgotten about, which is there is a tremendous opportunity right now to be negotiating media at incredibly low rates because so many people have pulled back. So we're starting off, and I'm already getting some nice,
that's good. Glad to help
stuff.
you out there.
Thank you, man.
But I'm not spending any more. That's good. But it's a lot of the things I think that really worked for us when we worked together. I think the smartest thing we did, and I don't know if you even remember this, but you will when we're done with it, is I think it was 2014. We're rolling. And we had set some lofty goals at the Honda store at the time. That was obviously the mothership, and Toyota was coming on board, and they were getting ready to overtake Honda. And we're trying to get our used car business going. And what we had uncovered at the time, and it's pretty much throughout the United States the same way, is that pretty much the internet traffic, if you look at your website, 5 times more traffic is on your used cars than new.
Yep.
And we came up with that campaign where we literally for an entire year only advertised used cars for our Honda store. We didn't spend any money for used cars for Honda. We had a shared used car inventory for the platform because we knew that I had the most traffic on my Honda site for used cars. So I ended up having a record used car year at Mitsubishi and Toyota and a record new car year at Honda. So what it turned out to is we got more eyeballs to the page. How many
talking about used?
But how many of them saw the 129 lease payment? How many saw the 129? The 199 CRV? And so Honda ends up having a record new car year. I have an okay used car year, even though I spent 100% of my budget on used cars, but it drove traffic for the other 2 stores. If that doesn't just really show you that you can get the skin in the cat multiple ways. So right now with these dealers, I'm applying the same concept now, same things. Hey, I'm focused on used because obviously I have used, but I also have new.
Right.
And it's working the exact same way. My leads are coming in on new cars, but I'm advertising used.
Right.
So they work so well together. But that was a smart thing that you talked us into on that one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. See, you didn't know you're gonna get comps. I've been holding them for 10 years, but you have to look at things that work.
Right.
And when you do look back, and we haven't worked together since then, and it's not because of a me thing,
right?
Because some people have their reasons why they like their partners.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about
we try
that.
to get you in and stuff like that, and it's just a matter of just trying to get people to understand. If you think a little bit outside the box,
right, and
you let your agency do their job instead of trying to be smarter than them, they might actually deliver for you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. There's a lot that you've just said that I'm digesting and processing.
Well, you get to play this back. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, because when in our business, and just like you don't remember every car deal. You don't remember everything, and there's things that you do along the way that were tremendously successful that aren't always top of mind because we're always focused on looking forward to, what are the next things that we have to accomplish. And I do appreciate you reminding me of a few of these things because it's good to know.
Well, as we were talking briefly before this, is that sometimes it's the KISS mentality still. We still need to keep it simple, and there's so much going on out there trying to reinvent the wheel. What it still really comes down to is service.
You think about that, in our industry, and this is not a slight on any company because there are great companies out there that have come up with very impressive technologies that are geared towards helping dealers operate their business in a more modern and contemporary way using technology. And they have every right to create great stuff, and they have every right to make all the money doing it. Just that this is a free country where we're an entrepreneurial country, and that is welcome. At the same time, there becomes sometimes, I find, within dealerships almost a distracting focus of, now we've got to adapt this new thing that's supposed to revolutionize the business, and now it's online retailing. When fundamentally, when you go into a dealership and you sit down, and I hear this from operators, and I've seen this myself, and you mentioned as well too, you sit down and you look at the customers, you listen to the customers, and you see what's going on, and you see people coming into the dealership to buy a car just like they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years. Now they might have they have more information, and they entered into the process of getting to the dealership differently, but they're still at the store, right?
Well, it's a large purchase, and it's part of the excitement process of it. It's not the same as the muscle cars when we were growing up,
right?
But they fall in love with them. My son at 26, he's all over social media. He does all the stuff. He can tell you about every car, but he still wants to go to the store. He wants to drive the car, and he wants to get the feel for the car. He doesn't want it brought to him. He wants to go there.
Right.
He wants to see, what is Lexus all about? What makes it different? Why can a Lexus do something different than Ford? Well, I've been at Ford stores and we've run them like Lexus stores, so it's about the people and the process.
Mm-hmm.
What ends up happening, and what we're getting right now, is overload, and it's coming so quickly, and that's what COVID has done. Is it's moving things very fast.
When you say overload, what's the overload?
Overload of the products,
right?
Whether first you just trying to get a salesperson to master using his CRM system is a chore in itself,
mm-hmm.
and then you got managers working data mining systems, and then your sales managers that are trying to work data mining systems along with the CD appointments and the BDCs and all these apartments, and the next thing you know, you got to say, hey, something new just came on. And I think, I can't remember who the gentleman was the other day I was reading about. It's sort of along your lines of using the note old school.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's some people laugh at a dealership that sometimes you still are four-squaring people. Yeah, it is still old school. He's still very, very profitable, and his customers love him, and everything is great, and he writes things down.
Right.
I don't need a CRM sometimes to tell me if the showroom's busy, if I have an uplog. I know it's crazy, but you got to make sure it gets in the CRM system. An
right.
uplog, it's still old school, still has to still be there, for accountability purposes. But it just overloads you with all the new stuff that's coming, because it is great stuff.
Do you find the technology is helpful and useful and necessary? At times, does it get in the way of just that human interaction that needs to happen on the showroom floor to sell cars?
Oh, I definitely think so.
Yeah.
I think you need to use the technology to get to that human interaction.
Right.
Let the customer guide you. They'll let you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like we shared earlier, I found most of my digital deliveries, offsite deliveries that customers are doing right now, most of them haven't been because they wanted to do it. It's because we've offered it up. And not necessarily we offered it up because we thought it was going to be a better experience for the customer. It might have been because my salesperson was cutting a corner, or he knew he had a busy day, or he offered it up. It was really better for them, because I've actually had a couple customers call and say, hey, listen, it was nice I did all this stuff, but I miss being able to come in and see so-and-so. And in South Florida, I had to get used to that again, and people like to interact still down here. They like to go outside. They like to go to the grocery store to see their grocer. They like to go to get their hair cut. They like to go, because that's their day. A lot of retirees, they
right.
want to have something to do, and we took that from them. So that was in a Google review that I called on that really got my attention, just to say, okay, I'm okay with it. If they want to do it, we can do it. But we don't have to be the ones force it in their face.
That's interesting. So I'm curious, at Lexus of Kendall, your primary demographic is what? I mean, I could guess, but if you were to say
right now, I'm running. It's younger than I was expected. I was expecting I was going to be 57, 58, strong retiree, but with the IS and everything, my average age is running about 44 to 45 years old right now.
Okay.
And with the new NX coming out, they got some youthful product. And I think that's what's really exciting about it, having that natural springboard coming out of Toyota. So I'm very blessed. Obviously, we have 2 monster Toyota stores, and we share the same campus, so we're side by side. So it's a natural progression. People start out. They may start out on the Yaris, Corolla. They start the family. They start growing up. They have a little bit of success. They walk next door. And it just really works. With that, and the CPO business is really what keeps us on the young side of things. Mm-hmm. We have such a strong CPO, product out there with unlimited warranty for 2 years after it, that it just drives so much traffic that keeps our age down. And that surprised me.
Yeah.
I was expecting to be selling a whole bunch of LSs and stuff, and no.
Well, and just, for those that don't know, when you talk about a couple of monster Toyotas, we're talking about Kendall Toyota and West Kendall Toyota. I mean, Kendall Toyota, historically has been number 1, 2, or 3 in the nation almost every month, every year, forever, right?
Well, they're up there all the time.
Right.
And, for me, coming back to South Florida,
right.
I had a great job. I was up in Virginia, as a platform director, 10 stores with 23 brands. I had a great job, really did. And, I pretty much swore off Florida, unless I was going to retire, and I wasn't ready to retire.
Right.
And when the ad came out there for Lexus of Kendall, there was one brand that I've always coveted. I ran a BMW store for 7 years, loved it. But the one I've always coveted was always Lexus, because when I started in the car business, was the first year Lexus started in the car business. And I started here at Pompano Acura, when it was Pompano Acura before I went to Terry Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And Lexus was open. And they were doing things that no one did at the time. They had just come out with unfortunately, their first real recall on the LS at the time. And how they handled their customers was unparalleled to what was going on in the industry at the time. There was no J.D. Powers. That stuff didn't really exist back there in 1989 and 90s when it was getting going. And their customer satisfaction was literally customer satisfaction. It wasn't a score. It was a philosophy.
Right.
And I liked that, and I paid attention to it. And there was an article in the paper at the time about how a gentleman in Alaska had a car, and he had a recall on it. And Lexus, the local dealer, was closest one, was out of state, or not a long way. They flew in. Lexus flies in, technician with the parts. Guy goes there, fixes it at the guy's house, takes it to get it washed, fills it up with gas, brings it back to him, takes it home. And that's always resonated with me to this day. And you don't get Lexus jobs. There's only, 250 franchises.
Right.
And I saw the ad, and I told my wife, I said, honey, I have to apply. Don't get mad at me. I have to apply.
Right.
And she says, don't worry, you're not going to get the job. Go ahead and apply. And I was like, okay.
Go team.
Yeah, well, you figure, I put the time in.
Right.
And it took a year. To work with Chris Roberts, the president, and we talked for a year. And I was out of state,
mm-hmm.
A little nervous, stuff like that, and and I had to sell it. That's what I wanted. And when you believe in something and you really believe in a product and you believe in the company that goes along with it, because my whole life all I heard was Kendall.
Right.
It was always Kendall. So I knew the company.
Sure.
Chris has been there 30 years. He built the company with Mr. Bean, and now Lori Bean, my dealer principal, running the show. It's it was what I wanted. Family. I like family dealers, and as you know,
mm-hmm.
Delabella's family.
Mm-hmm.
The dealer I worked in Virginia, family. I like to stay with family dealers because you can press flesh and you can look them in the eyes, and you feel good.
Yeah.
And I can remember that 2 years ago after hurricanes and stuff, we're Zoom calling, and it was tough. But to get that opportunity, I think life works in mysterious ways. They're blessings. To be able to have an opportunity to come back to South Florida, it's totally different than when I left.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. You have to understand, when in the 90s, South Florida wasn't the greatest thing. You had Scarface was our big movie we grew up with.
Right.
To raise a kid wasn't where you wanted to be. Now it's so diverse, and the culture is so strong, and the generations are so in love with Florida. it is. I told my wife, I can't believe that I'm back here
and enjoying it and thriving. It's great. It's a great place.
It's a great place, and people are so nice. And the dealer I work for, she is so nice and so caring. We didn't lay off anybody with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed business as usual. She was bringing in. You'll like this because with your health and stuff. She's bringing in truckloads of fruits, vegetables, milk, eggs for all the employees. I'm talking 18-wheelers of food for people to take home, because not necessarily for our employees. Hey, if you want to take it to your church, take it to your church. If you want to take it to your parents, whoever needs it, those kind of things dealers don't do.
But I know you are, because you're telling me, and by the way you're telling me, and listening to, like, those are the things that I love to hear about our business, and those are the things that have me continually in love with the business. I mean, for whatever anybody thinks about the retail car business and car dealers and all that stuff, are some of those stories justified? Yeah, probably. But at the end of the day, the family-owned businesses particularly, which, there's still a lot of successful historical generational family businesses, retail automotive businesses in our country. They're freaking great. You're talking about local businesses that are prosperous, that employ lots of people, that support the community, that give back, that do a lot of things, that provide a lot of opportunity for young, middle-aged, and older people who want to do something with a career. I mean, the amount of opportunity that exists for people within a car dealership is probably second to none in terms of any other business, because there's not a lot of businesses that somebody who has a high school education and maybe that's it, that person, man or woman, can enter a dealership and can rise, through their own efforts and their own discipline and hustle and all that stuff. They can make it to the top. That happens, right?
Well, I can tell you it happens because it happened for me.
Yeah.
I got, I went to college, but I didn't go to college for college. I went to college. I majored in eligibility. I played baseball. College was not my thing, so I figured out how to just get it through.
Right.
So I could play ball. And I got out of it as quick as I could. And the car business was my first real job. It's the first thing I found passionate about. And you're absolutely correct. There's so many threads in our industry that are tied to the automotive business. Right now, give you an example, there's a national shortage of technicians. You want to talk about, if you like to build things and you work that way, you don't need to go to college. You can go to technical college if you want. You can learn how to work on. You can walk in a dealership right now and become an apprentice and start your path to a technician.
Right.
For us, one of the things is the most exciting thing we have going on is we just opened up our first class with Miami-Dade College, which is an accredited college course for technician. We have our first 15 technicians that just started this month, where they're actually going through college to be a technician. Mm-hmm. They work for us. So we interviewed them all. We had to find the best 15 candidates, and now they get to go through Miami-Dade College to be able to be a technician, on-the-job training, working with our master technicians, and at the end of the year they'll graduate the program, and we're going to have 15 new technicians. And that's what our industry brings to people. I have a young man right now that just he's been in the United States from Cuba. He's been here 5 years, probably 5 years. He was a lot porter for us last year. And he's got dynamite personality, and he approached the general sales manager and says, I know I can sell cars. Please give me a chance. And for 6 months, we made him work for it.
Right.
We didn't need to see.
Yeah. And
he really worked really hard at it. And so for the last 3 months, we gave him the opportunity. We put him through HR, put him in the process. His index score was strong, and said, okay, let's see what you can do. And the guy's selling 15 cars a month.
That's so great.
And it changed his life. Last Friday after our sales meeting, I waited till everything was done, and I pulled him aside. I didn't want to embarrass him in front of the team, because I haven't had someone that naturally gifted just sell cars and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Training is all done. He knows the product. He's asking all the right questions from management. He's a sponge. And I pulled him aside, and I put my hand on his shoulder, and I said, I can't tell you how proud I am of you. I haven't had many people in 30 years do what you've done. And he teared up a little bit. He says, I will never let you down. This job changed my life. And what more can you ask for My day was made. My month was made.
Yep.
And that's what our industry allows to do, is to take people, if they want to work hard and put the time in. It's infinite. It's infinite. You know.
That right there is the classic car business story, right? In my opinion, one of them. You know, just somebody who comes in and sees the opportunity, is willing to work hard, has the drive, passion, focus to do it, you know, pays their dues, and gets there, and then starts to succeed at it to the point, like you said, it changed their life. You know, and I wonder sometimes, and I'm going to kind of go off on a little bit of a tear here, and I'm not trying to, but I'm going to.
It's your show.
You know, well, it's our show. You've got all these, you're talking about a shortage of technicians, right? And we've gotten to a place in our country where I would be willing to bet that there are a lot of people who live in the United States of America who say, I'm not going to be a mechanic. I'm not going to work on cars. Why would I do that? That's you know, everybody is so sold on college education, white collar job, if you would even still call it that at this point in time. I think now probably younger generations are more sold on being their own entrepreneur, or you know, to some degree. But you've got a huge shortage of people who are needed to fill jobs that make really good money, right?
Sure.
I mean, you can support yourself, ultimately build a family, and have a very good life being a mid to high level technician at a car dealership, right?
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, I have, you know, top technicians that are in the $38, $40 an hour, but they're working, they beat the clock, as we would say in the car business. For every hour of work, they're turning an hour and a half.
Yes.
So they're in the $100,000 club at our store, and they don't have $200,000 worth of college debt.
Exactly.
You know, so their lives are really good. Then they work really hard.
Sure.
You know, and they train. They do a lot to get their ASEs and everything that's out there. And that's why we have, you know, for our company, we have a very structured process for them. So we know, hey, you start out here as an apprentice. You take these tests, boom, raise. Take these tests, boom, next level. Everyone knows.
There's a clear pathway.
And it's a clear pathway. And if you want to go beyond that, that's fine. We'll groom you to be a service manager or service advisor. We have some that have gone from technicians to service advisors, assistant managers, directors. Mm-hmm. It's always about growth from within. It's just making that first step to come in, you know, and opening that door and saying, hey, come in, give us a chance. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, you have to be very open to understanding what the obstacles are of getting through the stigmatisms. You know, it's everyone's been raised for probably about the last 15 years very hard. It's all education. And I'm very blessed. I have a daughter that's getting a great education, but boy, is it expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. And I always raised them, if you're going to get an education, make sure the education can pay it back like a business. You know.
Yeah, it's an investment.
And to give you not to go down the education bashing part, but
right.
In Plattsburgh, New York, we had Plattsburgh State University, and I had a customer that was one of the professors of business up there. And I said, you know, do you mind me asking you a question? And he said, sure. I said, I'm thinking about buying a business. The investment's going to be about $140,000. Payback's going to be 20 years. What do you think? He goes, that's stupid. Why would you do it? And I said, that's why I told my son not to go to college. And he'd stopped.
Right.
I said, think about it. Most of these kids are going to college to get $15 an hour jobs.
Yeah, it's almost heartbreaking when you think about it, you know. When there's so many young people saddled with so much debt and not necessarily having learned the skills that would really make them useful, right? I mean, I know, you know, in running this business for years, I mean, do I look at resumes and do I look at where they go to school? Yeah, sure, but I mean, that's never been a big factor in what would lead me to hire somebody. I mean, at the end of the day, you're looking for somebody who's got smarts, capability, is willing to work hard. You can tell that they've got some drive and that they're willing to put themselves on the line to prove something. Now, of course, education is an important part of that. I don't want to bash education either. I mean, I have a college degree, but I can tell you, I don't know that there's anything that I learned in college in class, other than learning how to learn, that really applies in any day-to-day deal right now. So again, neither one of us are bashing education. I know we're off on a tear here, but you know, when you've got significant opportunity in this country for people to work and do things that pay good money, and you've got shortages. You can't even find people to fill the jobs. It's like, what the,
Yeah, that makes it difficult.
Yeah.
But look at some of what I call the feeder companies that are out there that, where do we go to look for these employees that we want to go in these ways?
Right.
And everyone says, why isn't your son in the car business? I said, well, he will when he wants to.
Right.
You have to want to be in my industry.
Yes.
But he understands process. And when we sat down and said, what business, where do I want to work that'll give me good skills for when I want to go somewhere? And Starbucks is where he ended up landing on it. And he loves it. It's a great company.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really go in there, I'm not a coffee drinker. I am now twice a day because I want to make sure Starbucks stays in business. My $6 is going to keep my son employed. But I've learned to like it.
Yeah.
But what I've also learned is, I never go through drive-through. I always go in store because I want to see chaos at its best.
Right.
Because if you haven't really gone and watched a barista and watch how they do their process management, it can really help you out at your job. It's no different than my service drive, how to handle, look at all the things that go through it. So now he understands throughput and how much time the register ring, and he doesn't know. Now he does after years of it.
Right.
He was learning valuable skills. They don't teach that. I'm not saying in college. That's real world.
Yeah, you've got to get your hands dirty to do stuff.
Even from
like
when
that.
his very first job was Domino's Pizza, was measuring time to the door, time. Learning. He's finally figured out it's all numbers now. Doesn't matter. It's all numbers. Our whole life is all numbers. That's it.
Isn't it amazing? There's so many great lessons to be learned in any number of jobs around the country that I think a lot of people, unfortunately, they overlook it. They say, oh, this is just, a job that this is not my end destination. Well, it's not always about being at your end destination.
It's part of the journey.
Right? Part of the journey, so.
And we started out at the very beginning. You said, I've moved around a little bit. It's been part of my journey.
Yeah.
Things you want to try to accomplish. I'm definitely a strong, write it down, what's the career path going to be? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So you get a little bit longer in your career, it's like, where do you see yourself in hopefully 10 years? But, you have to have those things.
And to the point of moving around, that's an important component of succeeding in the car business as you're coming up. I learned that from my dad, and I watched his experience with it, and I've watched it with so many really great operators that you build yourself to the level in the opportunity that you're at, but there's another opportunity where you have that chance to take your game to the next level, right? And that doesn't always exist in the same town that you're in right now. And sometimes that means picking up your family and moving on, which is I think one of the more difficult aspects of the retail car business is that there does tend to be some relocation that can be tough on families. But if you're looking to grow and develop yourself, as you and so many men and women in this business are, you've got to, my dad used to say, it's all about the opportunity, right? You've got to go where the opportunity is. And I watched my dad relocate to markets, some that he loved, some that he didn't love so much, but he was always like, it's all about the opportunity.
Yeah, for me,
and can you grow?
A lot of it all starts, like you said, it starts with the parents.
Yeah.
And how you're raised and things. I had that blessing of the right combination. My father was an attorney. My mom was raised by tobacco farmers. So we had literally, if it was the Green Acres kind of thing, you had going on. But they met at Duke, So my mom grows up dirt poor, literally. No electricity, no running water. The real deal.
Right.
Self-made stuff gets put through college by poor people when you can afford to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dad obviously raised by a very successful long lineage of attorneys.
Okay.
I was very grateful he didn't want to push his family to be attorneys, and for me it's knowing what my grandfather had to do to be able to take care of his family, putting 3 kids through college, not knowing if his crop was going to get wiped out from whatever, locust to hailstorms, from year to year, and then sometimes having to leave home to go to work to put up power lines or do the electrical grid and leave home to take care of the family. And what hit the most for me with my father, being he was in the Navy at the time, is we were very fortunate. We didn't have to be Navy brats and move all over,
Mm-hmm.
but I got to meet a lot of his friends and their families, and they were always moving. And when I started making these decisions to make moves, I sat down with my kids and I explained to them. I said, our military, they make great sacrifices for us. So we have these opportunities to be able to make these kind of decisions, and they're always moving. And we're going to be no different. I'll always put you in the best situation to take care of you. But if they can take care of our country and move, we can do the same thing too.
Right.
And you're going to meet new people. And my friends now, my kids now, here we are with all these moves are growing up. My son was just out in Seattle last week because he picked up the phone to call his hockey coach from Wisconsin that he hasn't seen in 12 years. Say, hey, I'd like to come out and visit. It blew their mind. He was out there for a week. They had a blast because social media allowed them to keep the friendship going.
Right.
And it was, as he said, it was like they never left each other.
But also that moving around and relocating, because my dad was, he was an Army brat, if you will, and I know that helped him tremendously because when you're, particularly as a young kid, regularly in new environments where you have to start over, reintroduce yourself, make new friends, make new acquaintances and all that stuff, that puts, either you're going to do it or you're not. But if you do, like it sounds like your son did as well too, the art and act of meeting people wherever you go and staying in touch with them and being just more direct and saying, hey, I want to come across and see you, that becomes ingrained. My dad was the very same way, in terms of just always feeling like I don't care who it is or where they are, what they're doing, I'm going to reach out and just talk to them.
Well, I think also like with all those moves is, for me, what helped them to engage was always sports.
Yeah.
The quicker the kids got involved in sports, the quicker they had friends, moving is not an issue. But I think it gave them so much more life skills. They can, if I brought my son in here or my daughter in here with you, you'd have a conversation with them and you'd be like, you definitely can't be his kid. You guys are way too smart, but they're very well rounded and grounded, and they're very, I'd say, worldly as well. Son's been to China. Spent a couple of years there with his girlfriend at the time, and I didn't have the courage to do that when I was 18 years old.
Those are we were just talking about that yesterday here. We were just sitting around, a few of us, talking about the importance of travel, and particularly if you have the opportunity to travel around the world, and what that really does for you as a human being in terms of going to other cultures, seeing other cultures, experiencing different people, and realizing that there's so much to the world, so much more to the world than ourselves or this country, and there's so much to be learned from just sitting down with anybody, and having these types of, conversations. And that's why I love this faith. That's why I wanted to do this, is just to be able to sit down and have face-to-face conversations.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people got away from. And that's that part we go all the way back, a few minutes ago we talked about still going and visiting that dealer. Mm-hmm. It's because it's those conversations are really what really build that long-term relationship for long-term profitability, no matter what the business is.
Yeah.
It's why something like a Starbucks is so successful, or a McDonald's, or the good, well-run companies. It comes down to the people and the interaction. How many times you go into I know you don't go to a McDonald's, but if you went to a McDonald's, they have these big kiosks over there.
Hang on a second. I'm going to put my hand up because one night 2 weeks ago, we have band practice here now. You'll get a kick out of that. And I was hungry, and I left here late. And you're right, I never do it, but I did. I went to I hit the drive-through at McDonald's on Hallandale Beach Boulevard at like 1 a.m, which was...
Well, it's the only thing open. You didn't have a choice, so...
But I enjoyed every minute of it.
There is an appropriate time for that. But, if you would have gone indoors, they got the big giant kiosks there now, so everybody can do their own orders and stuff. And people still don't use those either. They'd rather just walk up and go, yeah, I'll have a number 4. I don't want to have to sit there and go,
who wants to do that?
I don't want to do the work.
Right?
I want a burger and I want to get out of here. And I don't want to wait 3 minutes. It's the longest 3 minutes of my life, wait for those fries. Because the fries are awesome. You got to have the fries. But if you got to wait more than 3 minutes, it's just, oh my God. But that's why they're processes. That's why I try to look at every single place I go to. Now, my wife doesn't fall for that too well. She gets pissed, But for me, I look at every bad situation of how can you make it a better situation?
Yes.
And I know right now that a lot of restaurants, you talked about the local businesses right now. I try not to eat at a chain restaurant right now. I try to do my best to be offbeat because those are the ones that got hit really the hardest last year. I've increased my tipping because I know they're hurt. I know people are hurt. I want to be able to look someone in the face and go, hey, here's an extra $10. Good job.
Thank you.
Later.
Right.
And build that relationship. When I go into my Starbucks, I call it my Starbucks. They see me twice a day. I don't have to do mobile order. Not doing it. I walk in, you hear them. I get more high toms and everything. My drink's already made before I get to the register, And if God forbid, I go next door to the Chipotle, because by the time I come out of Chipotle, someone's standing outside in front of the Starbucks with my drink saying, "Hey, you don't have to come in."
Really?
And I said, I didn't want a coffee. Don't worry about it. I'm like, okay.
But that's
what interaction does for you.
Exactly. It's like getting face to face with people, going, interacting, be with them, talk to them, say hello, look them in the eyes, and do it repetitively. It's not only just beneficial. It provides a good feeling for everybody involved. And here another tear. We've been on social media staring at our damn phones, right? Which you have to if you're in business. I mean, listen,
you have to.
You're a regular communicator on social media, and I admire and I appreciate that. And I'm doing the same. You have to if you're in business. But at the same time, that can't stand in the way of human interaction, right? Of being able to communicate face-to-face, one-on-one, spend time together. Because at the end of the day, whether you achieve great success, not great success, you have all the shit, you don't have all the shit, it's the time that we spend together. And we've talked about this on the show a lot of times. It's the time, and this is people all around the world of all races and cultures and creeds I've found that I've talked to feel the same way. Let's sit down, let's share a meal, maybe have a drink, and talk and spend time together. Like, it's just such a foundational element of being a human.
Well, I think that the art of being able to disagree has disappeared. And that's what's really made people, they don't know how to communicate now because of these a little bit as much.
Right.
And and you mentioned social media. I don't utilize it as my Bible, but I like to see what's going on things I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Just as equally as on things I do agree with. And it opens your eyes to some education to see things differently. But for me, I still think that what we're losing out on is a lot of mentorship and a lot of people taking a personal responsibility to make other people better. For social media, the biggest stories for me is that I have probably right now maybe 7 people I've never met before in my life that are either salespeople, finance managers, one's now a general manager, that had reached out to me over the years and said, "Hey, I like what you post. I like what you stand for. This is what I want to accomplish in my career. Can you help me?"
Really?
I'm like, yeah,
that's great.
It's right down my alley, right?
Yeah.
Father Tom, right?
Yeah.
Right down my alley. And one of them was a service director working for a large dealer group in Washington, D.C. He says, "I want to be a GM. I know service, but I don't know variable." And he said, "Would you help me?" And I was like, I don't live up there anymore. I'm in Florida. So we literally now, once or twice a week, we're doing a few webinars. We're doing some teams and we're talking, and he's getting good at sales. So that year has gone by now, and now he's the general manager. And he got there because we were able to talk. He didn't know anything about social media, how to
right.
So we talked about all the things that this is how you take care of customers. It's a BMW store, and since I had BMW experience, he was able to get a lot of. We clicked, but he got the confidence to be able to go after it. But he also learned how to be able to talk to his platform director or his owner to be able to get that job. Mm-hmm. To show okay, I know fixed. Most GMs come up through variable, don't know fixed. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
understands fixed, and the rest of it is hiring the people that do things you don't know how to do. And if you're smart enough to do that, allow them to do their jobs, then you guide them and you put the water and fertilizer. it should be doing it. And those are things that I get out of this. Is that there's a young man, his father passed away. He works at a car dealership. And I don't know him. Never met him, don't know anything about his father or anything. But I just sent him a message, "Hey, sorry for your loss. Been there, done that, own the t-shirt. I miss not having a dad to talk to.
Yeah.
You ever need to talk? Give me a holler." And I'd let him know, our industry is here for you. And that's, I think, when we start being proud of our industry and growing people that way, mm-hmm. we'll only be stronger. But it makes me feel better. And at the end of the day, that's how I was raised, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Hats off to you on that one.
Well, thanks.
That's really great.
I don't do it for that. I do it because it's fun.
Sure, exactly. Because there are things that, particularly as you get to a certain age in life, that you realize that there are things that make you feel really good to do that are not about necessarily accomplishing a goal or, scratching through something on your list. It's like, helping somebody else, making an impact on somebody else's life just by your sheer presence or just making yourself available to them, and sometimes you don't even realize when you're doing it, I
mean, those are the wins that you need.
Yes.
I've never had a record month, never had a record year. My team has.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it.
Yeah.
They do it. I keep them on track. And that's the best part is when you go into a new store, like, I come into a new store, been around a little bit. Things are a little bit different in South Florida. You hear that everywhere you go. It's different here. It's different here. It's not different. It's no different than South Florida, Tampa, Wisconsin, New York, Virginia. Car sales are the same. The basic processes are the same. Work the process. Work the numbers. Numbers don't lie. You work the numbers, work the process, you have success.
Mm-hmm.
Show me a store that's failing, I'll show you one that doesn't work a process or pay attention to the numbers. It's sort of easy.
What are some of the things that you've learned or experienced in this new position over the last couple of years? Just general stuff. Anything like, coming back to South Florida, going to work in Dade County. What was it like?
I think for me the biggest thing is that people are still afraid of a telephone. It doesn't matter where you go. Follow-up is probably the most important thing that you can still do in the car business that still doesn't get done. It's still the most frustrating thing for any general managers watching this right now. They're all shaking their head going, yeah, we suck. We think we are. We're not. It's utilizing the tools to be able to make sure you do that better.
Mm-hmm.
And utilizing your CRM. I think what hurts us is that we have all these tools, and because of the turnover, no one ever really knows how to use the tools. So when I got down there, I had all the tools. I had the e-leads, and you name it all. We have it. All the shiny toys. So my first thing I had to do was sit there and say, everybody, print me these reports, because I knew all of them. I need to know what they knew.
Right.
And what I knew was nothing what they knew. They knew nothing. It's not knock. They only knew what they were taught.
Right.
And the previous general manager was an ex-dealer, and he wasn't at the store most of the time. It wasn't hands-on, and he didn't know it, so he wasn't going to know what to do. So I had to come up with ways to be able to get them to interact with the product without coming in and being the new guy.
Right.
Want. He'll be gone in 4 months, blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. Yeah. And to get them engaged. And that's the key thing, is to get their people engaged, to understand that once they see how the product's supposed to work, and then they start utilizing it, and then they start seeing the results, and then they see the success, and it became their idea. And now they start carrying the ball. And I think my biggest, I feel accomplished right now is that, our expression basically is numbers don't lie. Every meeting starts out that way. I told you this morning, I start out my day, I look at my e-leads. First thing I want to know is, what's my day going to be like? How many appointments do I have? How many have been confirmed? That lets me know of my drive to work, who am I calling? Who's not doing their job? It sets the tone. But now I don't have to do that. I'm starting to get text messages to the team prior, because they know I'm looking between 7:30 and 8:30. They're beating me to it. We don't have enough appointments. They're looking at it, and now they see it. But I had to come up with. I'm a spreadsheet geek.
Yeah.
And I like shared files, so I created a spreadsheet that for money meetings we have to have data entry in for it. They have to do it, but I put all the key metrics, the KPIs out there that I wanted them to pay attention to.
Right.
They have to enter it in there now. So when I did that, 2 years ago, they didn't know how to find it. Now they know it like it's the back of their hand. So they didn't know that they were being taught, because if I told them to do it, they would have just fought me the whole way. Now they see it. Mm-hmm. And that's that part where I talk about the overload, because it's taken me so long. It's taken me basically 2 years to get everybody fully on board, and it's humming. It's not even a problem. They just know. If I'm having an off month, they know exactly where to look. They go straight to either the service drive, appointments, phone calls, emails, and you're going to find a number that sticks out. Closing ratios off, appointments off, and they fix it. And once they fix it, things get going again. And it's been tough with COVID, when you have two managers go out at a time, and then they've done a great job. Right. But they pick up for each other. And so now it's, that part they say is a store is best run when the owner's not there. So I don't get nervous when I'm not there now. I used to like, what's going on? And I don't worry about it. Now it's I got to do that with service department. So sales is all set. Got a great service director. Got to do the same thing there. Hours per RO. How much time, wait time for loaner cars, and cycle time, and manage the numbers.
It takes a lot of time to get all of that stuff humming and into some sort of balance where you, and I'm speaking hypothetically, obviously I've not really done that, but in the dealership, but to get it to the point where now you're touching on everything a little bit all the time, but everything's in place, everything's running. But it takes a while to get everybody up to speed in a dealership organization to the point where you, as the GM and overseeing all this stuff, now you're just touching on your key people, right? And saying, okay, there's a little area to improve here. And you're not retooling everything.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about Lexus is the lack of turnover. We only have 7% turnover.
Yeah.
We don't have much. If we have turnover, it's usually not because someone's not making it. It's because, I'm moving to Texas because my girlfriend got a job, or my parents relocated, or something like that. People stay with us, and that allows you to really build that cohesive team.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to come up with that culture, that we want to have with our company culture along with Lexus's culture. And that makes it a lot better. So you're always trying to do better now, instead of always putting the finger in a hole in a dike all the time. Now it's like, okay, I don't really have any fingers in a hole, but how can I go from 2.1 hours par O to 2.4? Let's look at the process. Like right now we're doing, all of our leaders in the company are signed up with Miami-Dade for Lean Six Sigma for process management. Mm-hmm. So we can learn how to identify, our issues and be able to come up with processes and obviously to fix things. And the result is to become better, stronger, and more profitable. Not many companies will invest in their employees to go through that because there is so much turnover in our industry.
Right.
We don't have that in our company. So the company's saying, hey, we're going to invest in our key people. So it's not just general managers. We got sales managers in it. We got 40 people in this thing, and it's a college class. And it reminds me why I wasn't good at college, by the way. But you don't realize how much of that is already in you're built into it from being in our business, but now you really understand it. Being able to recognize these things. And that's what's great about being with this company and with Lexus. It allows you to really go to that next level. Mm-hmm. And not have to worry as much because you do have such a strong foundation. But, it was cracked. And it came down to people, and, I have the same staff when I took over. And the difference is just what we do.
That's a real testament to you as a manager and a leader, because a lot of guys come in and clean house or replace people, and my dad taught me this, and I always felt the same way. It's in some cases you're just trading one problem for another problem, working with who you have. And I had another boss I remember specifically told me, that no, you've got to go in and work with what's there. Like, it's your job to improve them and build that team up. And when you do that, I think you definitely build a larger and stronger organization, but also you earn respect in a different way, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
If you're the professional that you got hired to be, you should be able to work with anyone.
Right.
People, it's opinions, of course. People like to carry their people with them. Mm-hmm. Maybe to hide their flaws a lot of times. Whether it's, I got to have my own finance director. I have that, no. I'm going to go in, I'm going to find out what's going on. We're going to do it the right way. I know how it's supposed to be done, and we'll figure it out together. Mm-hmm. And then if you make it, great. And if not, then sorry. But it's all up to them.
Right.
But if you do everything properly, and that's once again, I hate going back to, it's about the company that work for it, and if they truly believe in it. I work for a company that truly believes in it. We don't talk the talk, we walk the walk. We make mistakes, absolutely. We fix them. We make mistakes. Trust me. I just redid a driveway because we had a technician that didn't tighten up a bolt properly and leaked oil over this nice tile driveway. Cost me $4,000. Customer called up pissed. I was like, hey, it'll be fixed this week. Mm-hmm. You fix it. It's going to happen.
Yep.
But when you have a company that allows you to work that way, and they trust you to work that way, and they back you, that makes all the difference in the world. And that goes back to me, and like I said, it works for me. That's why I like the family business. Because the family business, they are in the community with you. I worked for a dealer, which has had the biggest impact on me with Jim Herman in Tampa. They've been in business since 1895, I think it is, almost 120 years. and we were having a general managers meeting, and he said, just remember these statements when you're making your decisions. There is no Mr. AutoNation, there's no Mr. Asbury, there's no Mr. Sonic, and there's no Mr. Lithia, but there is a Mr. Furman, and I live here. That's impactful.
Yep.
So when you're doing business with that dealer that lives here, or the grocery store, or whoever it is, they're there. There's someone there. Now they empower us. They're not involved in the business.
Right.
But they empower us to be the arm for them, to represent them. And that's the one thing I've always taken great pride in. I will never, ever compromise myself to ever hurt my dealer. Ever. End of story. It works.
Have you found Lexus to be what you saw it to be?
Yeah. I think what really brought it home was last year. Lexus offers a class for all the executives in the company for Elevate, which was really nice. I've been through leadership training with Mercedes-Benz and Land Rover and BMW. Everybody has their own little flavor of how they want to say what leadership is, everything. And Lexus blew theirs away. They flew us out to their corporate headquarters in Texas. We were the last class before COVID shut it down, unfortunately, but we got to go through it. And the level of detail that they bring to the table when it comes to just training and being on point. And that's what made us go into this Lean Six Sigma in the training part of things, because that actually started out 50 years ago really by Mr. Toyota and his family through the processes of how they build their cars and all those kind of things and identifying that stuff. And they had so many guest speakers there that were different, and they made you look at business differently. Not the Ritz Carlton and all that kind of stuff.
We've all seen that. Yeah,
we've all been there. But it was so. I really can't put into words. It was sort of like a life-changing moment kind of thing, and that's what they bring to the table. It's not just Lexus also. I mean, it's Toyota too. I've been very fortunate where I've met Mr. Toyota at some dealer meetings. I don't know how I was able to meet him. I just got in the right place at the right time and actually could talk to him. Maybe 3 minutes. But those 3 minutes, he made me feel like I was the most important person in his life. I want you to think about that. This is Mr. Toyota. This is the guy. He's the man. He's a Henry Ford. I mean, he's the guy. And he made me feel in those 3 minutes like I mattered.
And that will forever impact you and how you feel about yourself, about how you go to work, and how you feel about that brand.
And that's why I applied for the job. And that was the only one. Anytime a Lexus job has ever showed up, I've applied. That doesn't happen often, as you know.
Right.
3 a year. Three every 5 years, maybe 3 every 10. But it's an honor, and I take it that way, and my employees take it that way. And they do the training. It's the dojo training that they do for Lexus, which is great. It's called dojo because everything is built on basically the philosophy of black belt, yellow belt, green belt.
Right. Okay.
It's got that flavor to it. It's designed by Mr. Toyota. So he's actually in. He's got commercials on it. He's in it. And that creates that feeling of what they want you to feel like every guest is coming into your house. We all talk about it. We've talked about it for 30 years in this business. They do it. Mm-hmm. And they expect the dealers to do it. But the dealers want to do it. And it's awesome. It is. Like I said, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I never have another job. Ever.
Amen to that, right?
I've said it before, but I really mean it this time.
That's funny. At this stage of your career, when you look over your years of experience in the business, 2 questions. What's the big takeaway from your experience working in the retail automotive business? That's 1. And 2 is, what has changed the most? And you answer in whatever. I don't mean to drill your hair. Here's a list of 10 questions, but
the car business for me, automotive. Let's forget about car. We'll call it automotive business. For me, has made you love people and hate people. That's been the yin and the yang. That's been the hardest part, or the easiest part, depending on what your level at the dealership is on that. You can have some days in this business where you just can't believe how poorly a guest will treat an employee at times. And then, just, wow, did that really just happen? And then you have to sit back and go, okay, why did that happen?
Right.
Sometimes it really did just happen and it's just a bad person. And it can taint you a little bit until you get seasoned enough to where you can turn every negative into a positive. And that's been the hardest part for me to do. It's not for me, but to get the people to understand they're going to have those days. As far as change goes, digital is without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. I think I love it because it's measurable. And we talked about it, like I said, we go back 10 years. Think about 10 years we're talking about this.
Right.
How fast has it changed in 10 years? From click-throughs to time on site and all that kind of stuff, it's measurable. And I think, to me, that's been the best thing for us, is because you can't fix something unless you can measure something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's instantaneous. We could talk about, is it mobile? Is it not mobile? I mean, in Plattsburgh, there was no mobile. Remember that? I mean,
yeah.
We were just going from flip phones to Blackberries up there.
Yeah.
And when we were doing all of our analytics, it didn't exist. And then all of a sudden, within 1 year, it went,
mm-hmm.
and then everybody says, oh, they don't do that up here. Yeah, they do. They do. Yeah, Lake Placid's got plenty of people sitting on their cell phones over there. And now it's the opposite way around. Now you can't get anybody to do a search on a regular computer on a PC. Maybe if they are, that's the people that are at work.
Yeah, they're at work.
And everyone's tightened those filters down. But I think that's been the best thing. It's for me,
mm-hmm.
because I like the numbers, because I can fix that. It lets me find that. Where's the breakdown? And that's what I like to excel at. It's fixing.
And it goes back to your point earlier where you said it's all the numbers.
Well, you remember all the nights being an F&I, end of the month.
Yeah,
you remember? Yeah, going from 1,800 copy to 1,400. Like, oh, what just happened? All the cash deals came to Chris.
Yeah,
and
right.
then you start finding out it's one salesperson. Then you start diving into a little bit further. It's one salesperson, one sales manager, and then now we can bring that all together,
right?
Because of the electronics. Whereas before, we think we know, sort of know.
From a marketing or operational perspective, has running a business in southern Dade County and the large Hispanic population down there, how much of the business is Hispanic? How much of the language spoken in the stores is Spanish? And how much of your marketing needs to be
Excellent
Hispanic?
question. That's probably why I'm the general manager of the Lexus store and not the Toyota store. We're side by side, and you have different demographics. Now, I shouldn't say different demographics.
Right.
We will have strong bilingual at Lexus.
Mm-hmm.
As far as 90% of all communication, I'm hearing out in the showroom is probably going to be English until they want to have a conversation they don't want someone to maybe know about, and then they might change it up.
Right.
That's usually only in front of me because I'm the only non-bilingual employee in the whole company. So, and I'm the only one that's allowed to be non-bilingual. Every one of our employees has to be
bilingual.
If you're a customer-facing employee, you have to be bilingual, because we want to be able to make sure we can deliver that experience. The reason why they feel that it's okay for me is because if my store is running properly, my employees should be able to handle the majority of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, after 2 years, I've not been able to communicate with anybody because everybody that is in our demographic is pretty much strong bilingual.
Right.
If I have someone that feels more comfortable, I'll ask them point blank, hey, if you feel more comfortable with someone speaking your language, I have plenty of people to help us out. We'll bring them in. And I've never had anyone say, oh, no. Don't worry about it. If I walk to the Toyota showroom, different ballgame. It's I don't hear English at all. It's just different, and it's humming. If I feel bad on a Saturday or something, I got 9-10 cars delivered. I walk next door. What do you got? 63. I'm like, okay. I just wanted to hear some noise and see what a busy showroom was like. I'm going to go back over with crickets. But it's just humming. And you hear it going, and it's cool. I mean, it just is. When you see that kind of business going on, and it's moving the way it's supposed to move,
right?
And the process is going, and it's just humming. You got 15 finance managers back there spinning along, sales towers working with them, everything. It's traffic management. It's a sight to see. It really is. That's when you know people aren't taking delivery at home. When you walk in that showroom, and it's humming.
Bet, right?
And it's humming. You know,
You feel that energy.
Oh,
you walk in there, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great feeling when you go into a store and you just immediately feel the energy that there's business happening here. Music's going, people are talking, things are happening, everybody's moving around, there's hustle happening. That's a great feeling.
Oh, it's an awesome feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the high that we get in our industry.
Right.
You know, that's the adrenaline rush. You know it's a good day. You know, and that's why I start the day wanting to see something good. I want to have that adrenaline going in, you know, knowing, okay. And I can sit in my office and my GSM's over here and my sales manager's over here, and I'm not listening to anything else other than what's the noise in the showroom. If all of a sudden it's getting noisy, I get a smile. You hear a lot of people can get a little animated,
right?
You know, and it's nice. You know, I'll just walk over to GSM, knock on the door, and go, "It's getting noisy out here." He goes, "We're having a good day." Yeah, I'm aware of that. I know if it's noisy, good day. Not noisy, not a good day. You know, so we even get noisy at Lexus. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
you know, it's interesting, and no surprise because a lot of this conversation has revolved around, you know, the personal interaction, whether it's in the car business or anything in life. But even when you're talking about how do you judge and how do you know when your business is firing, right? You hear it, and you hear it in the sound of people interacting and communicating and making business happen face to face.
Well, it's no different. I walk the service shop every hour. So two reasons. One, I don't want to get any bigger than I already am, so this allows me to get off my butt. But my service department is a ways from a store. I have a detached showroom, and then the original dealership houses the service department. So it's a good walk for me, and I always walk it. You know, but the reason I like to walk it is, one, see the techs. No one ever gives them the proper love they need, and if we have a shortage, I want them to know I love them.
Right.
But I like to hear the noise. If I don't hear any drill, if there's no noise, something's going on.
Right.
So sometimes you just want to get a little recharge. We got 109 service bays. We share the same service department. So I got 100 techs out there, buddy. It's ringing. You know, and that Toyota store's got 350 appointments a day. I got my 150 coming in, and the techs are just rolling. You know, that's a good day. But you go in there on a day like maybe it's raining too hard just before a hurricane's coming, and everyone canceled appointments. You walk through there and you're like going, it's a bowling alley, not good.
Right.
Yeah, not good. So noise is good.
I agree.
Noise is good.
I agree. Tom, let's pause there. Well, let's pause there until we do this again, because I know that we can, and I know
it's your
that we
show.
will.
I'm here for you. Like I said, I just wanted to come see you. Next time I want to meet the wife when she's in town.
Well, they'll be back.
You live down by our store, don't you?
I live in Aventura.
So that's what,
halfway.
25 minutes?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. I could come by for a beer.
We can do that.
Or a hot dog.
I seriously was gonna. I was like, okay, I know exactly. Now I don't know if he's gonna like it because it's not gonna be the real thing.
Well,
but
you didn't have to do, what you do is you do it, let me eat it, and then tell me afterwards.
Right. Okay.
Let's see. Now you blew it.
I blew it.
So now we just got to go to hot dog heaven over there. Okay. So.
Oh. I haven't been there in a long time.
Hot dog heaven. That's the place. First place I had to come back to is unfortunately the hot dog heaven. Okay. I had to hit wings and things.
Okay.
I had to hit Jack's Hamburger.
Okay.
I don't know if you like a Jack's Hamburger. And obviously Skyline Chili when it was still open.
Yeah, they're out of business now, aren't they?
Yeah, they shut down, but they still have the one out on University.
Oh, so they do?
I know where that is there. So I've got that locked in. So you got to lock in the old-time favorites. So you think about it, those are 40-year-old companies. They've been there my whole life. Still in business.
Yep.
Why?
Local businesses.
Now, you'll have a lot of people say, I don't like their hot dog, I don't like their chili. 40 years, 50 years these people have been in business.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason. There's a reason. Food's good.
Food's good.
Good interaction.
Good interaction.
So thank you for your time.
No, hey, well, it just reminded me because the name of the place up in Plattsburgh was McSweeney's.
McSweeney's,
right?
Yes. If you're ever in Plattsburgh, New York, go to McSweeney's. It's called a Michigan, by the way. They don't call them chili dogs. They're called Michigans because there's actually very fine meat and there's no chili in it. And they are off the chain.
I'll never forget. So, I mean, we used to go there every time.
Absolutely.
And I mean, we all overdid it, like, because they were so good. They were like, this is just the best. They were chili dogs, but they were called Michigans. Cheese chili dogs, you name it. Incredible. And 9 times out of 10, after that, there would be, I would be driving back south.
Long drive, no restroom.
A long drive. George, the one time. One time we brought George. George was with me, and we went there and we had lunch. And I remember I remember the drive home, and George was having a hard time on it. The McSweeney's did a number on
they'll
him.
do it to you. But, it's amazing. It's every single vendor or every Toyota rep or Honda rep or whatever, I still will get a text every once in a while going, I miss those hot dogs.
They were incredible.
Yeah, and we, when I was the first person to ever ask them to put cheese on one. They looked at me the first time and they're like, what do you mean cheese? We don't do that. We put onions and this. No, can you put cheese on for me? Okay.
And it was like a nice, like puffy pile of shredded.
No, you're thinking Skyline chili on that one. They would crisscross their cheese on it. Skyline chili puts
I fucked it up.
That's all right.
I got my Tom Gilbert food memories crisscrossed because I will tell you the only reason I went to Skyline Chili
is you shipped it to me.
Right, but also because you're like, dude, you gotta go. So then I went, a few times, and did we send it to you?
Yeah, you did. You sent me a kit. You went online and ordered it out of Cincinnati. For all you don't know, it's a Cincinnati Skyline Chili place down in Florida. It was legendary down here, and but for me, it obviously had a more special place. And people they laugh at me. That's where I took my wife on my first date. So before they closed down, I went over there and I got a picture of the booth that we sat at and everything. So I got it framed and everything, and I gave it to her for Christmas last year. She goes, "Why'd you do that? I hate that place." I said, "Honey, that's our first date was." She goes, "Yeah. You almost didn't get a second date." So I love it. My wife hasn't been back since 16. When she was 16 years old, she hasn't been back since.
Well, God bless you. How many years have you guys been married?
We'll be married 30 years this year.
Oh, freaking A, man.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
30 years, and we dated in high school, and I've been very, very fortunate. You can't do this business without a great spouse. You cannot do it. Any business, you have to have a great spouse.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of communication and a lot of sacrifice on both parties. Like I said, she's been dragged all over the United States. And she's just like, okay, what are we going to do next? And
that's a trooper right there.
Yeah, she's been awesome.
The unsung heroes.
Absolutely. Way better than me. Way better than me. Put up with me? Come on. I had to learn I had to be nice to my wife as I am to my employees. That's the truth. You don't realize that, because you're managing, 150, 160 people,
mm-hmm.
And you're always on all the time. And then when you get home, you think it's okay to unleash the BS on the wife. Can't do it. So for all of you out there, can't do it. Can't do it. Nope. So we'll end it on that.
That's an even better spot.
So thank you.
Cheers, Tom.
Be good.
It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Let's do it again.
You got it.
All right, man.
Bye.
Bye.